In this video, I'll be sharing with you exactly how you can generate qualified leads using LinkedIn, and specifically how to do this in a highly automated way so that you can spend as little time when it comes to your lead generation. Hey guys, my name is Lloyd Yip, and I've been in sales for almost a decade now, starting from door to door, then moving on to software sales, and now I actually run my own company where we've helped over 120 clients around the world scale and build sales teams and improve their marketing campaigns. So with that being said, one of the most successful methods that I've had in generating clients for my own business, and something that I've also ended up teaching a lot of my clients, is how to scale and generate customers using LinkedIn. So before we get straight into it, please just drop a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because I'll be releasing a ton of more content just like this in the future. First off, before we begin, it's really important that you understand LinkedIn is not just a place for you to essentially post your resume online. You actually want your profile, before you even do any sort of outreach, to be optimized for sales. Think about this almost like a billboard or a living advertisement. So how do you actually do that? Well, first and foremost, just make it professional. There needs to be a certain standard in terms of the qualities of the pictures that you're putting up there. If you want, you can even make the cover photos and all that stuff talk about your value proposition. For me, I don't really do that, but it's definitely something that I've seen happen a lot before. Now, other things that needs to happen for sure, the About section has got to pretty much go through what it is that you do, talk about who it is that you're helping and how you actually serve them. And then if you can even go through testimonials, talking about client wins, customer stories, that's something that definitely helps a lot because people will always look at these. For me, I just have videos that I've recorded on Wistia, and then these all link to them. And it's kind of crazy the amount of leads that you'll get just because you message someone and then they look through your profile and they realize, okay, this person's actually pretty intelligent. Now, the number of followers that you have doesn't really matter. The amount of endorsements that you have doesn't really matter. If you have it, I mean, I guess it kind of helps your credibility a little bit, but I was able to generate clients without having any of this stuff. So there's no reason that you should feel as though you need this for LinkedIn to actually be an effective tool for you to generate leads from. So of course, one of the ways in which you can generate leads on LinkedIn is to message people who are of a good fit and to start a conversation, hopefully booking a call. So the way that you could do this is very simply put, connecting with them, and then you can add a note, and then hopefully they accept your invitation, and then you can have a bit of a conversation which leads to booking of a sales call. But the thing is, this can be quite time consuming, both finding of all these leads as well as sending all these DMs. You don't want to be spending hours and hours and hours every single day doing that. And that's where the automation comes in. So enter Dripify. Dripify is actually one of the coolest automation tools out there, and it allows you to actually make LinkedIn outreach run all by itself on autopilot. And this works especially well if you're going after a B2B audience, selling things like software or services or consulting packages. I've actually seen this work even with personal training. So perhaps it's not strictly a B2B thing, but keep in mind, LinkedIn is gonna have a specific type of customer, and it typically does skew more so to the B2B side of things. The way in which you can actually start building the lists, however, is going to be via using Sales Navigator, which is actually just a premium version of LinkedIn. You could use the free version of LinkedIn, but there's a lot of limitations. For example, you're only allowed to do a certain number of searches every single month in LinkedIn before it essentially just stops you. And then you also just have a very limited number of filters, so it's hard for you to dig into finding the ideal client profiles. So obviously Microsoft, who owns LinkedIn, is doing this on purpose because they want you to upgrade. But for me, it's actually money well spent because of the added benefits that Sales Navigator really has. So the first thing that you can do is go to Lead Filter, and Lead Filter essentially gives you all of these different ways in which you can filter down the specific type of client that you're trying to prospect into. So a couple things I'll highlight. You can go after someone who works at a company of a certain size. For example, if you're going after smaller companies, 1 to 10 is a pretty solid place to start. Let's say you want to go after someone who's living in North America, but you can continue going down even to specific cities. Industry kind of speaks for itself. LinkedIn will give you plenty to choose from. And then you can go down to job title. Maybe you're going after founder or CEO. So there's lots of different roles that you can go after. There's even things like years of experience, or what I really like to do is utilize groups. So let's say you're going after someone who's in healthcare, right? So you could go after, say, anyone who is actually signed up in a specific LinkedIn group, which is about healthcare. So there's an infinite number of LinkedIn groups that you can utilize as part of your filters. So that's something that I would highly recommend in general to take advantage of these filters. I would probably recommend you to make sure that some of these lists are a bit smaller. 960,000 is incredibly large. And frankly, for you to be able to use any of the automation tools that I'm going to be recommending, you will need these lists to be under 2,500 just because it can't process such a large list. So in that case, that's when you start utilizing more filters. For example, they've been in the industry for say 1 to 2 years. That they are, let's say North America is a bit too broad. You can even go down to New York State, for example. Boom. And then you pretty much have a much smaller list of say 1,000. So that's essentially what you would do. And then you would then save the search here, and you would name it whatever you would like to name it. So if I was to show you my saved searches, you can actually see that I typically name it based off of a convention with the industry, the size of the company, the location, and the role. So that is essentially how you can start to use Sales Navigator to find your ideal prospects. So now that you have your saved list inside LinkedIn, you want to then create the lead list inside Dripify. So first pick a name that matches the lead list that you're trying to create. So it can be the country that you're going after, the titles of the prospects that you're going after, and then the industry that you're going after. And then you would just import the URL from the LinkedIn search that you had earlier. So once you've done that, you want to then create the actual campaign flow where you will be reaching out to the prospects on. So there's a couple options that you could have inside the software. You could send them a connection request and message them. You could view their profile. You could even endorse their skills. Typically for me, I like to primarily focus on connecting and just messaging the actual prospect. So here you can actually see that you can click add action and then you can send an invite. So this would be your initial connection request. And then adding a personalized note would essentially mean that alongside with your connection request, you're also adding a little bit of a note. I would recommend that you do this. It just allows you to have a higher conversion rate. Now, the cool thing about Dripify is that it allows you to have this branching logic, because there's a possibility that the prospect might not accept your connection request, right? So if they don't, what you can do is set a delay for a couple days and then do another action to try to get them to actually accept. For example, you can endorse their skills or you can like their posts. But let's say they do actually accept your request. So the next thing that you want to do is reach out to them, right? So if that's the case, then maybe you first warm them up a little bit by endorsing one of their skills, and then you can message them an hour later with your follow-up message. From there, you can send out as many additional messages as you'd like, but I would recommend that you probably keep it under 3 so that you don't annoy your audience with a bunch of spammy feeling messages. Now, as far as what you put into the campaign from a copy perspective, let me actually share with you some of the copy that I would use. And by the way, if you want to actually just download this document for your own use, maybe you want to use it as inspiration to generate your own copy, by all means, just go to the description box below and you can actually click a download link. So the first step here is the connection request, and I generally like to keep this much more friendly. I don't like to ask anything in that first message, since it can oftentimes be a little bit too aggressive or off-putting for someone who doesn't know who you are. So I normally just try to make sure that in the beginning, I show that, hey, I've done a little bit of research, I understand the type of role or industry that you're in. I try to say something that's complimentary. Hey, congrats for building your business. Hopefully things are going really well as you're scaling. And then this is just something that I like to do because I do travel a lot and I do go to a lot of conferences. So that's just something that makes sense in my industry. You might not say that for you, depending on your audience. So for you, generally speaking, just show that you've done research, create some commonality, and relate emotionally. And that's a really good start for your first connection message. Now, my second message, which would happen after someone accepts, so typically I would wait an hour after, is I would just say, hey, good to connect again, first name. Always exciting to meet other entrepreneurs in and then you can utilize an industry or a geography, something that shows that you've done the research once again. And then I like to just ask a question and maybe share a little bit of my own story, because I find that whenever I share my own story, it makes it easier for the prospect to actually then open up themselves. But primarily, out of the second message, I'm trying to ask some questions to understand if they're going through some pains, if they're going through some bottlenecks. So this will change depending on the type of offer that you're selling. So if you're selling some sort of offer which is going to help, say, HR managers hire easier, then you might talk about, hey, like, I noticed that you're currently trying to hire. Like, how's that going for you? Are you having a difficult time finding talent, et cetera, et cetera? So customize this for your own self. But at the end of the day, the second message is all about showing a little bit more empathy, excitement, and of course, asking a question to figure out their pain point. Now, the final message that I'll send out, which is typically 2 days after this second message, is going to be a little bit more to the chase. At this point, they've already ignored my request to start a dialogue, so I'm just going to pitch. But that being said, I know I can optimize it if I use a little bit of humor, so that's why I like to make a little joke in the beginning that might bring their defenses down. I make fun of the fact that I'm a Canadian and that I'm saying sorry for being rude and pinging them without their consent necessarily. And then I kind of give a bit of an intro about myself, how I help, who I help, some social proof as well. And then I more or less just pitch them to jump on a call. And this is an overall pretty solid structure that I like to go off of. And I would recommend that you pretty much use something similar for your own LinkedIn outreach copy. So once again, you can download this entire document and use it for your own inspiration as you're building out your own campaign. So if you're sending out a ton of messages, naturally you're going to start getting a lot of replies back. So the easiest way that you can actually manage these replies is to just use the inbox feature inside Dripify, and that way you can stay a lot more organized. You can filter by which of the messages have you actually not responded to yet, and you can bring all those to the top, and you can just make sure that every single day you or one of your appointment setters can actually go in and manage all the unread messages and pretty much just try to book them into sales calls. Now, I will say this can take a ton of time. If you're starting to generate 50, 100, or even more messages every single day, potentially you're utilizing multiple LinkedIn accounts to actually achieve this, you're going to start bottlenecking on managing of these conversations. And that's when I would say you should definitely hire an appointment setter who can spend their full time just booking meetings for you. So if you don't really know how to do that, don't worry, we actually have a video guide that goes incredibly deep into how you could actually find and hire and train an appointment setter to pretty much take over all of your meeting booking on the day-to-day for your business. So finally, the last thing that you want to do is just check out the analytics. Generally speaking, I'm aiming towards a 40% plus connection acceptance rate. And then I would like between 5 to 10% of a reply rate from the connection requests that I'm getting. Now, overall, I will say that there are some risks involved when you're sending out this many LinkedIn messages every single day. For a long time, LinkedIn didn't actually care because automation was kind of new and so few people were doing it. And that was when really, really great money was being made because you could send out hundreds, if not more, every single day. These days, though, you have to be a little bit more careful with LinkedIn's terms of services. If they find that you're sending out an abnormally large amount of messages every single day, they might actually flag you. So that's why I would recommend that you keep your messages every single day sent under 50. Some automation tools outside of Dripify can even allow you to go beyond that, but I wouldn't recommend it just because it's a little bit dangerous. Even if they allow you to break those limits, just keep it a little bit lower to be safe. If you want to increase the volume of messages sent out every single day, a more intelligent idea is honestly just have multiple LinkedIn accounts and then connect all of them to these automation tools. And then you can have, say, 3 to 5 accounts running at the same time, each doing a couple hundred every single week. And that way, overall, you have a pretty large volume of messages going out. So in general, that is my approach when it comes to LinkedIn automation. And by the way, I've actually worked with over 120 plus companies around the world, whether it be agencies or consulting firms or SaaS companies, when it comes to improving their sales process, generate more leads, and close more deals. So if that's something that you're pretty interested in, then book a call with me below. My calendar link is in the description box, and let's have a quick conversation. So with that being said, if there's nothing else, check out these other videos that are recommended. I'm sure they can be super helpful to you, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.